Well, thank you. There's a very familiar faces around this room. And welcome, anyone. And thank you so much, Greg and Isabel, for having us here. So the talk for today is new interactions for exhibitions and museums. But I have to make some statements. So I don't speak English quite well. And the second statement is that this talk is not about the latest tech. So if you're expecting to see some tech, this is not about it, but rather than our creative process on how we implement this technology into our daily process. And the other statement is that nothing is absolutely new, and that we disagree with some of the current media formats for museum exhibitions. So you probably are thinking like, well, this is a trap. And yes, it is a trap. So I'm gonna go a little bit to talk about this in a moment. So this is us. So we're about 100 people right now in the studio. And we've been about in this field for over 11 years. So we just recently turned 11 years last week. And so it's quite large, as Isabel said. And we exist to inspire people, and I think we believe this is our purpose in life. This is kind of like a fountain that never ends, and we always try to think about how many people could inspire through our projects. And this is kind of like the current type of project that we have been working on. So most of the percentage of the projects that we have been making are based on exhibitions and museums. Then shows, art installation, and commercial projects like 2%, less and less more. And you're probably saying like, how do you guys survive not doing commercial projects? But basically, we're doing experiences talking about our heritage in archaeological sites or talking about painters. And right now, we're switching this model. So we're doing a fade out next year. So next year, we're not doing more commercial projects. We're going to start making more like properties. So right now, we're opening attractions. So we're going to build our own attractions. But this is a different talk. So I'm just going to skip through the talk of this thing. So our work is in formal multimedia experiences, and we use new interactions. And nothing is absolutely new, as I said to you before. And what do we say like nothing is absolutely new? So think about what it makes something new, like something that you see on Instagram or on the internet, and you're thinking like, whoa, this is new, this is cool, this is something that I like. And I believe it's a good balance between those three things. It's a good set of ingredients with the correct tools, and above all of that, it's like a good concept. And I'm gonna show you the most revolutionary concept that it's been taking Mexico City. So this is the most revolutionary thing that is taking the city. So tortas de chilaquiles, it's what it's been doing. Like it's made out of all of these ingredients, like fried tortilla, green salsa, cream, beans, cheese, onion, bread. You know, the concept of you carrying all this lunch for to work or whatever you want to go, it's huge. So people usually wait like 45 minutes just to get and put their hands on one of those tortas de chilaquiles. But it's interesting about it's been it's just quite simple, but it's kind of like what I'm thinking about, that it's the correct balance. So we use our available tools and ingredients to develop concepts and create new interactions for the people, and we always think about the people. And I believe that a good concept with the correct ingredients and tools, it makes something not only new, but more powerful and meaningful. So I'm gonna show you one of the exhibitions we have been done in collaboration with our dear friend Pedro Reyes. So back in like 4 or 5 years ago, he had this friend in the army, Pedro, and they were taking apart these guns from the drug cartels that they were taking in Mexico in the south, in the border. And they were like destroying all of these guns. And Pedro took those guns into our office and started to make these sculptures. And these sculptures were musical instruments taken out of the guns. So it was a really cool exploration about you know, like receiving all of these materials, because at the time we received this, so can you see all of the energy that it's put on those things? Like those guns actually kill people, those guns actually, you know, like hurt. and he was saying like to us like we're doing an exorcism to those guns. Like right now we're building something different. So after building this kind of musical band out of the guns, taking all of the sounds out of it, he said like, yeah, well, I have the soldiers. I want you guys to help me to build the tanks. Like technology has also evolving through the years into all of the gun machinery. So let's make something more evolving. And we make this exhibition with it became called, the name of this exhibition was called Disarm. So this is a robotic control band, which is made out of all of the guns that we found in the boxes. So the boxes that you see in the back were the boxes that arrived into our workshop. So look at, if you think about this for a minute, so when you see a gun, you see something that scares you, but when you see this, kind of makes you smile, right? Kind of change the energy. It's something that it can be also powerful, but at the same time could be meaningful. And so, well, yeah, thank you. I'm just gonna, I could let you the video, but it's on the internet, so I'm just gonna go through. And to build new interactions, you have to create your own tools and combine them. This is how we met TouchDesigner. So in the past, we developed our own TouchDesigner. Like it took us like 3 or 4 years. So you're seeing a video, and actually it's very funny because it looks like, it's very similar from the tool that Matthew showed us before. But we were developing our own tool. Like we were making a lot of this kind of systems to control instruments, to control videos, trying to make all of these node connections. So it took us like 4 years to get into the point where we decided not to do it anymore. and basically because we just realized we wasn't a company of, we didn't want to be a software company. We wanted to be a company that wanted to create projects for the people. And so we took that decision to not continue to develop this tool and to use TouchDesigner because there is a more powerful source that we can use and we can just focus into the most important part. But at the end, it's really good to know and to have technical skills and use those technical skills in your installations. And right now, with this tool, for example, in 2004, so that's way long ago, like 6 years ago, we built this installation. And this installation was called White Canvas. And White Canvas was an installation that it was made from about like more than 300 light beams. So at that time, we didn't have any reference of light beams, of light beam art. So the concept behind this is that we wanted to create with only pure white light, with only pure white immersion, like spaces, but also which we could represent rain or storm. And it was really cool, to have all of these people and immerse them into this space. And this exhibition is currently in China. It's going to be until the end of November. And I'm going to show you our Pinterest from that time. So this was we did this sketch because we didn't had any concept. Like from that year, it started evolving. So it became like a hit on the internet. Like Mashable was starting to post this work, and there was like a lot of evolution through music, but also commercial. And art as well. We're very happy that we also became a reference for all of those installations that are there. So this is kind of like the system that we're translating from. We translate from the tool that I showed you before, and it's basically a basic like queue system. So we like kind of like pre-design all of the queue system, and then we can scroll and preview all of those queue slides, and so we can control like the speed of this. So we divided this by acts, so we can start seeing how we're going to preview the light. And here, for example, I'm gonna show you in this video like we built like a 3D modeling of the space. So every time we're going to build something, we model everything. So we're seeing like a combination between our tool, but also trying to understand the space, how this will behave. And with great tools, you can start building up concepts as a result interesting interaction. So for me, I think when you think about ideas, is something like this. Like it's like an open universe of ideas. But if you don't constrain them, if you don't put like walls in your ideas, it's very difficult for you to, have one idea, one single idea. So it's very good for us just to give us some limits and trying to use a constraint, because those constraints help us to understand better the way we're going to approach creatively to things. So we always define your limits, and I'm going to show you some examples we do when we try to define our limits. So think about this sphere, about this single ball. So we try to ask ourselves the question of what if. What if, for example, these spheres became magical? And I don't know if you have seen this series before, Dark. So it's a sci-fi series where this kid has this magic lamp that is exploring through all of this. So we just decided to make something very similar, and so we came up with this wireless and tagging DMX. So we're using different type of technologies are involved in this process, but we think about these interactions for giving to kids one day and to give them those lanterns and they can explore the spaces. And what happened, for example, if the spheres become immersive? So we make this example, which is just a tracking system which is located across the room, and then we can control the whole projection at the same time with a connection of cameras that are tracking all of the people around the space. What happens if it is playful? So using the same perspective of using only one object, which is a round object, we're trying to make a video game out of this object, just using common lidar sensors to implement this. So we always try to simplify things, and we say try because it's quite difficult, right? I mean, like I've seen all of the projects here today, and it's so complicated to simplify stuff. And I'm going to show you some of the, this is kind of like a recent tool we're using in TouchDesigner, which is, I don't know, something that we always wanted to have TouchDesigner, but it doesn't have. So this is kind of like a trick for, this is a question for Greg. So basically, this is a timeline. So we built this. So this is a combination between video, but also interactive application. So basically, you drag and drop your audio file or your text file, and then it becomes part of a timeline. So as you normally do this editing in After Effects of whatever software you're using, so you have layers, so you can hide them, and you can like move them from side to side. You can say, for example, I'm going to add a video, or I'm going to add another application. You can make, for example, blending modes between those layering. So it's for us it's very, we always try to make all these simple tools that I'm showing you, because at the end those tools become part of our exhibition. So this is the second largest pyramid in Mexico, which is Teotihuacan. I don't know if you guys been there, but right now we have an exhibition at night. So we're making an experience at night with the people. So we're translating our tools into touch to trying to experience this thing. So I made my point about nothing is absolutely new, and I want to tell you a little bit about why we disagree with some of the current media formats and museums. So I was trying to look examples in the internet, and then I found this. I hope it's not from any one of you. but yeah, so I found this example that it says like keep your visitor engaged for longer by creating truly memorable, immersive, engaging experiences. A touchscreen can ensure they have an enjoyable visit. Stick around for longer and come back for more. This is very interesting for me, because it's not just the touchscreen, but it's just like the formats. Because I think when you work with exhibitions and museums, it's kind of like they give you so many messages that it's hard to know what was the exhibition or the message about. Rather, if you just give them just one single message, I think somehow the people will be able to have a better experience at the end. And the talk about, I mean, our talk today is just about the messages. Just one message is more powerful than giving more message. And this is more related to this. So there is something related to the variables of the time of development versus the cost. And this is where I think the museums or exhibitions with multiple messages are located right now. So there takes so much time to develop and research and, you know, and put everything into a touchscreen and making some layers. So a kid comes like 2 seconds and he started to explore and he just left. And it was so expensive even for the museum. Versus the museums or exhibitions with one message. So it is kind of a relation, and it's quite different approach. And it also has to do with the time of engagement and the enjoyment. So this is where the museums or exhibitions with multiple messages are located. So this is what I was telling you about, like people spend so much little time with so much content versus the museums or exhibitions with only one message. And I'm going to show you a project that we were doing in Mexico. It's not open yet. It's going to be opened probably in next year. So we make this project about the energy, and they gave us this space. So the first day that we arrived here, we just saw the space like this. So they didn't have any idea how to do an exhibition for Llanes, but they trust us. And we were thinking about what was the one single message we can help us to do things. And using these messages that energy is in continuous transformation help us to kind of define our limits. And we kind of like explored the space from every single side, not only in the digital world, but in the physical world. So we built models and mock-ups for everything. So all the installations you've seen that we built. So from 11 years doing all of this process, the best process that we have encountered to do is to make something more physical. And something that you can actually not explore in the screen, but you can actually touch and move all of the people around. So we model everything, not just physically, but also digital. These are some of the early exploration and experimentation we were doing in the space before we dig into this. But it helped us a lot. So we come up with the idea of not putting all of the things digital, but using some sculptural LED kind of objects that help us to tell the message about how the energy is transforming. So, like for example, we come up with the idea of a torus, which represents the transformation of the energy. We make these spheres, which is also related with the stars. We also make this kind of like power connector that was transformer that helped us to transform the energy. And we start to building all of these sculptures. So this is kind of like the process when we were building all of these things. So they're huge, they're enormous. And then we don't only mock up everything, but we test, we go to the space and we test everything. So we try to, test from the beginning, because, one single mistake you have on the measurements and it's gonna, cost you a lot in the process. So as you saw, we are evolving mock-ups. So you saw this little mock-up with the cardboard and then with digital, and then we made this other mock-up which is more, a bit more in your size, but it still can help you to understand the space and to understand the technology that is going to be behind. This is the space, a little bit more later. So we put a lot of this type of things around. We play a lot when we're doing all of these installations. And yeah, so we also, it was really hard and complex for us working with systems, so we have to create and build of our own particle systems, because when you're talking about the space, as you saw before, it's really complicated to render so many particles and so many systems, so we just have to build new tools that enable us to make all of these particle systems to behave more natural and to represent the idea of the space. So in this example right here, we're just testing all of the energy that is transforming and that is evolving through all of the space. And this little box over here, this is a development that we have been doing for like 3 years or 4 years. So in this little box, there is some Raspberry Pis with some LEDs, and they're containing some technology to use them as an RFID system. So we'll use them to, one, because we register the users on the space, and then those users can interact with their bracelet during the exhibition. So we just try to, combine them and measure them. So these things over here are some early examples of working with particle systems, trying to create the idea of how the energy is transforming. We collaborated with Vincent, who I don't know if he's here, but he was helping us to make these water examples, and we were trying to give the idea of you can make things and you can transform the energy with your body. And here, for example, we were putting the people to be in the fire so they can boil the water. And once they boil the water, they can collect this energy. They can use the bracelet. So this guy in the back, he's collecting the energy with his bracelet. He's taking the energy, and he's taking the energy to the center of the room, which is transforming the energy to light up a city that it's in the back. So this is kind of like the basic interaction we're doing for this exhibition. And in this video, this is a bit more of what is going on in the whole installation. So when you arrive into the space, you can explore some of the facts about how the energy it's been transforming over the years. And then there is like a show that starts, and it begins with a big bang, with a big explosion, how the energy is evolving and transforming. So we're using a lot of, it kind of looks quite open and simple, but in the back, it's a very complex system for controlling a lot of lights, projections, RFIDs, a lot of system. But we always try to do this system with a creative intent. So our technology is not based on using just technology because we want to use technology. We just want to use them to make some intent. All of these particle system that you have been seen before, and all of these tools, at the end, and no one see them. They just see this kind of expression in form of an exhibition or an art installation. But I think for us, it's really good to use a tool as TouchDesigner because it's very flexible and very, help us to implement our ideas fast and quick. And it's good to be and live in this era where we can create these fantastic interactions with people and with larger audiences. In our case, for example, we don't use VR. We try to make them. We try to make experiences that are more big and that can be explored with more people. So it's also good to ask ourselves what makes a good concept. And a good concept is not made out of just to look at Pinterest and just type something and magically a light installation or an exhibition is going to appear. I think what it makes a good concept is just to have your creative process. And I'm gonna share you not our very strict process, but something that we have in common with a good friend that is called Alejandro Masferrer. And I think we think very similar the way our creative process is. So the first thing that we do in our studio is we reunite ourselves, then we define our limits, we explore all of those ideas, we filtrate them, all of the ideas, and then we execute them. And for example, yes, looking at Pinterest reference just go right there. So we try not to, skip the process. Always try to make the process more efficient. And this is how we been hacking our process. And I really think like the technology is so available for us that sometimes we forget about this creative process, and then we just want to execute them, or we just want to explore the ideas. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Josue. Beautiful work. Do you guys have questions? Aha.
Hey, beautiful work. And I guess I can speak for Matthew in saying, what? You did it first? That was cool. That's super cool. I'm curious about, you're talking a lot about like building tools, but you're also building tools for like clients. So who owns the tools that you build? And like, at what point in your process do you consider sharing them? And can you even share the tools that you build like on GitHub or like with like, an open source situation? Or is that just not something that enters in?
So, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, we have a legal department, of course, because we've been there. And our clients, they own the executable file from our projects, so they don't have any access to the things that we do. And one of the reasons we didn't put our tool, the previous tool that I showed for sale or for the audience, is because it was expensive to maintain. And also, our purpose was, and intention was not there. And we don't share much of our tools, not because we don't want to, it's because we don't have the time to support them. And this is something that if you pull out a tool that it's out to the public and to the audience, the hardest part, you have to maintain that tool. And then it becomes like, you became like a software developer instead of producer of experiences, because and we've been there. I mean, we were trying to give those tools to the public, but then we just decided, okay, we just have to focus more on the correct tool. So actually, we don't. It's not that we search for technology. It's just we search for concepts the whole time, and then those concepts kind of drive us technology. It's not the opposite. I don't know if it makes sense.
Hi, I'm just wondering, when it comes to, I've had a lot of experience in trying to sell experiences to museums and get them to take a chance and do something either with VR or just something more outside of their comfort zone. A lot of the times it becomes a hard sales process because they're so comfortable with things like a touch screen or a traditional exhibition. I'm curious from your experience, like what has been some things that have helped you convince a client to trust you or to kind of take that leap and do something a little bit different?
So we've been there. We've been doing touchscreens a lot. And that's something that we learned. And the thing one of the reasons why clients trust us is because we share with them a lot of our work with documentation, all of these, cool videos about the installation, about more immersive spaces, something that it's only one message is. So actually, there is a very strict process when we have a project on our queue line. So every Friday, we have a committee on the Friday, and then a project arrives into our office, and then we decided if we're going to take that project or not based on how many people is going to inspire. So is this kind of like archaeological site or a pyramid is going to inspire 200, a million? We'll take it. And it has also the budget, we will. Is this exhibition is going to be inspiring or not? we're not gonna take it. So this is, I mean, most of our convincing process is like we share with them our vision and our projects, and then we kind of like pitch with a very single minimal idea. Could be like this 3D visualization, or could be mostly with like a model. Yeah, a physical model, like an architect. So, you know, like the architects, when they go to sell an idea, they sell this model. So we've done it as well. So we are like architects. So we do all these models, and then we, you know, take this model like as you're in the school with the client, and then we say like, here, this is how your exhibition could look like. And then we put little projectors on it, and then we try to, you know, sell them a bit more of a more convincing idea with something that he can explore, not just see on the screen.
Thank you.
Hi, great work. I was really interested to see that you were doing some live prototyping within the build space while it was still in development and construction. Can you talk a little bit about what that process is to bring AV equipment into something that's essentially still a job site?
Yeah, so most of the things that we do, they're large scale, like I mean, the plans that the architects gave to us, we know they have incorrect measurements, incorrect. So we just start by the idea that nothing is correct in this space. Not everything is incorrect. And then we need to implement a lot of, I mean, we call it like a dust process, because dust is like you still in dust, like you saw it there. Like this kind of like dust word is actually in our process, because that's the phase where we're going there to test all of the equipment way before it's even there. Like we're gonna, you know, try to, if there is a space, or we can drill, we can put a hole on the floor or in the ceiling to put all of the equipment. So one of the inconvenience of that space that you saw in the video is that that space needed to be something different every time. So that was kind of like a definition for us, you know, like it was in our little square, like thinking about how we can make a space that it's kind of mutable through the years as well. So we came up with an idea. So we have these sculptures and we can just remove them. But for making these sculptures, we just have to keep, you know, explore the space in this dust phase.
Hi, great talk. So a question for you is, you talk about simplifying a message. So you have museums which try to pack a lot of information. On the other end, we have maybe installations that are interactive or not, and they might lean more towards spectacle. So how do you guys measure like having a clear message that's still has information and educational value while also being simple?
It's all about the creative intention. So as much as you as a director has a creative intention very clear, it makes a technology or an installation more relevant, because we could have had all of these experiments that you saw as a menu, right? And they could have been in the table, like put it there. But if you as a creative director, you don't see the value of the vision of what this experience is going to add at the end for the messages, the best thing and the most important thing that you have to do is not to use it. Because if you use it, it becomes a technology use, not a message use. And this is the way we kind of like decided at the end. Is this going to have the right intention? Is this going to support the end of the messages? Because if not, it's just garbage. It doesn't work. It's just technology. But we're not a technology company. We're just a creative multimedia experience company.
Any more questions? I have a question. How much do you think the culture of Mexico inspires your work?
Oh, a lot. Yeah, I mean, right now, I think, like I told you at the beginning when I show you this graph, when we have all of these percentages of projects that we have been working on, We're right now at this very moment, as we speak, we're switching the way we're doing projects. So we're doing less client-based projects to make it more experiences. And those experiences are going to become more Mexican-based experiences because we have the heritage of having all these archaeological sites all over Mexico, painters, artists. So we're going to use all of our history and trying to build attractions and to make them multimedia experiences made in our own culture. So it's going to be, I will say, like the most powerful source of making actually money and do a living out of it is going to use our own culture as a source of power.
That's really great.
Thank you.